On my right, but I also mean my other left. Voicing in DBZ, also probably longer than we'd all like to admit, because he's a legacy character that paved the way for more badasses in the Dragon Ball Z world. We have Kyle, narrator Herbert! Come on in, have a seat, Ty. Welcome.
Hi. Hello. Welcome.
I like having group panels out of the jealous reason. I get jealous at conventions because you all get to hang with these guys more than I do, because it's the only time we get to see each other really is on panels. Like I lived in the same condo building as Schimmel. And he was on the first floor and I was on the third, and I thought, oh, we're gonna see each other all the time now. No, busy. So this is the only time.
Yeah, we have to travel across the country in order to spend time to hang out.
Even though in the part of the country that we're at, we're about 15 minutes from each other.
Yes.
Like I'll go eat at a restaurant near you.
Yes.
But I'm like, hey, he's probably busy. I'll just go wait in line and eat this tofu omelet because it's LA.
He's like, man, I sure wish Todd would come by from time to time. I feel like he's in the area, but he never stops to see me.
That's right. So I'm glad we get to do this. And for me, I know that everybody, you probably have some questions for these guys, but I've got my own questions that I want to ask them. It's probably going to intersect with your questions. So sit back and buckle in, and I'm going to get to your questions here. So what's good about these guys is that they cross different mediums of entertainment. So you've got Jason, who does behind the mic, and he's also in front of the camera, right? For many years. Which one have you done longer in terms of career?
Well, I'll tell you, I started out doing theater in Houston many years ago, and one of the first paid non-theater gigs that I got was working with ADV Films in Houston. So technically, I was on mic before I was on camera, even though I was trying to be on camera before I ever got on mic.
How many people didn't know that? Raise your hands. Didn't know. Boom! You just learned a new fact. You're welcome. And so you did theater. Do you remember your first play?
First play, like in high school or college, or just like first professional play?
First professional play.
I was part of a company called the Urban Theater, and we did productions, these sort of guerrilla warehouse productions of like Macbeth and Equus and Waiting for Godot and Seneca's Oedipus.
Yeah.
And so that cut my teeth on that stuff.
Okay.
And then at that, at a certain point, you're in Houston, Texas. You're thinking, well, what is there to do here? I'm going to have to move at some point. There's occasional film work happening in Texas that you hear about. It mostly happens in, at that time, it mostly happened in Austin. I think Walker, Texas Ranger was shooting up here. But you're looking you're eyeballing the exit, and then this sort of upstart company comes along. They're hardcore fans before we even, had a term for whatever an anime fan is. These guys were looking for ways to share the love, and they were ordering laser discs from Japan. That's how they were watching anime, and so that's basically the story of the founders of ADV Films. And then that's how, being in Houston, I kind of got roped in along with a lot of other actors that people like Monica Rial and Hilary Haig and Chris Patton and John Swayze, and maybe some of you guys have worked with them at some point as well. But I was there from the beginning, even though I wasn't trying to be. I thought it was pretty cool, but I can't say that I was an anime fan at that time. I mean, there were very few anime fans at that time, and so it was a lot of that early work that kind of sort of ginned up primed the pump for what would come later. So, and here we all are.
And then the interesting thing about that for everybody out here is that when people talk about, I want to get into this and what do I do and what do I take to do that, he brought up some good points in the sense that you better get a question ready because I'm going to sit right by you. Is that your badge? Your partner's badge? Hello, partner. Are they invisible? Oh, you're okay. We're gonna move that for now, because I'm gonna come sit here. The interesting thing about what he said is, number one, he got training. He got started in theater, so voice acting, highlight acting. He did that, and then he was in an area where just kind of luck found him, because you were rocking around with people that started ABV and things like that. So when you're asking for advice on how to get started, it's training. And it's also this is your mom's seat, it's being born, that helps. And then just training and being in the right place at the right time. Now, Kyle, for you, before, you were on the mic, from what I know, on the mic, before you were on the mic for shows, it was on the mic for radio.
That's right, everybody. I was on the radio. Hey, hottest tracks on Wax. What's Wax? Yeah, before DJs were known as waka 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 waka, Dead Mouse and all that stuff. DJs were the guys that introduced records on the radio. Records? Yeah, like turntable. No, but CDs. No, now, so many different terms. I'm so old. But yeah, so radio.
Hold on, I have to stop you right there, Kyle, when you say you're so old. Hold that thought. Now I'm gonna ask you all a question. When you go to an auction, what's worth more money? Superman issue 1000 or Superman issue 1? What's worth more money? Issue 1, baby. The older the comic, the more it's worth. That's you, Mr. A-Bear.
Vintage. Thank you.
Yes. Same with wine, same with cars, same with scripts, same with everything. The older it is, the more you love it.
Fantastic.
Don't sit there and say you're old, sir. You are vintage, baby.
Classic.
Anyway, proceed.
Radio. So yeah, I wanted to do two things when I was a little boy. I wanted to be on the radio, and I wanted to voice act for animation, because I learned about Looney Tunes, all the classic, from Mel Blanc, who voiced all of them. And so if you're watching Space Jam, the new one, or the original one, it's like, no, that's not Mel Blanc. They have a whole host of voice actors now, but Mel Blanc voiced all of those characters back in the heyday. And me learning about that before I was like age 8 or 9, I think, I thought I was just fascinated. Of course, I'm a kid. I love cartoons, but I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted my voice to go with those characters. And then I grew up. Anime wasn't even called anime. It was all just cartoons and things like Speed Racer. And after Star Wars hit, then they started importing other shows like Robotech and Voltron, and Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers. Voltron. I was a big fan of that old school anime stuff. And in the 80s, they called it like Japanimation or something like that. I'm like, okay. And yeah, so I grew up, I got a degree in broadcast, radio, TV, film from the University of North Texas, right outside of Dallas here, in Denton. And I got a scholarship at a radio network. So instead of a local radio station, this is a network where they pump the signal out to stations across the country. Like Sirius XM nowadays, satellite. Only this was to actual radio stations, not subscribers. So I was doing everything from classic country to heavy metal to Radio Disney. And once I was on Radio Disney, I happened to hear about auditions with Funimation. It's like, they're here? There used to be, the Dallas Observer still exist? The Dallas Observer paper, the free weekly paper. So Chris Sabat was on the cover of that. Chris is the director of Z, and he's Vegeta and Piccolo and all that. And it's like, oh my God, I read that thing, and then a few months later, it's like, oh, Funimation's here. How do I get in the door? How can I? And then Radio Disney, some people from the promotions department, they took a tour, and they came back and said, hey, open auditions, dude. You should try. Like, yes. So I tried, and I did get very, very lucky. So ever since August of 2000, I have been very, very blessed to have a career thanks to Funimation, which led to all the other cool projects I've been so blessed to work on. So yeah, talk about segue from one career into another. And then I decided to move to LA in 2005, so I left radio altogether. Scariest thing you can do is move away from home, right? Where you know everybody, your family, your friends, and go into the great unknown. But you have to take risks and hope that it'll pay off. You don't know that it will, but you take the risk because you don't want to have regret and wonder what if. It may not work, but either way, you will learn something. Experience is very, very positive, even if it doesn't work out the way you think it should or would or whatever.
That's awesome. I have a question.
Yes.
Did you have a different voice for each genre of music that you were spinning?
Ooh.
Heavy metal versus country.
Okay, so country would be just like, all right, Johnny Cash coming up, some Willie Nelson and this, and then down the hall goes some heavy metal, like Metallica, yeah! Oh, yeah! I'd be acting like Jim Carrey or Robin Williams.
Now do your Disney voice.
Same thing. Oh my gosh, Britney Spears! I literally got to use the same name, Squeege, on Z-Rock, on the heavy metal format. They went off the air, and then
I love the Z-Rock.
Oh yeah.
That was good. It was big in Houston. I don't know what
Yeah, they had an affiliate there. So see what I mean? Satellite music delivered to the station pumped from Dallas to a Houston affiliate and all across. So they would hear the programming and the DJs were based here in Dallas. So I got to go in and introducing Slayer and all that stuff. And 6 months later, well, here's Weird Al. Oh yeah.
Well, and then Kyle, with your time in radio, or with just VO in general, what's been the best, the best item you've gotten, or maybe there's like an award that you like, or a special prop that you got from working on something? Or is there one thing that sticks out where you're like, that was badass when I got that? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, an award, I got like a best. This is the only award that I actually have a physical award for. Is like the guys who put on Anime Expo. Had like a best English dub, male, female, and I was nominated and people voted for it too. And it's like, I was up against Sam Jackson and Afro Samurai and all this other stuff, but I got it for Gurren Lagann, for Kamehacon.
I'm tired of these anime awards! Yeah, okay.
That's right. Now to be fair, maybe Sam Jackson doesn't need to promote. It's like, vote for me!
Give that award to Kyle Herbert! Yes, Mr. Jackson, we're on it.
We're on it. We're going to vote for Kyle Herbert. Kyle Herbert, whatever his name is. So yeah, that felt really cool.
Awesome.
But the crowning thing I would say about my career is not really an award. It's getting to be in Wreck-It Ralph. Getting to be in a Disney movie without having to be a big movie star celeb. It's like, because I voiced Ryu in Street Fighter, and the guys in Disney wanted to hire the actual voices of the current characters. So they got Roger Craig Smith, who's Sonic, and they got me as Ryu, they got Ruben Langdon as Ken, and even though they're cameos, it's like, I'll take it, man. I will totally take that.
Yeah.
I'm so proud and like still, I can't believe that I got to do that.
That's awesome. Now, Jason, for you, in terms of whatever medium, your choice, is there something like that for you where you like, favorite, I kept this from the set, or I got, anything like that?
Yeah, wow, I don't know. Well, you're talking about awards. I remember there used to be that Voice Actor of the Month award that somebody used to do. I don't know. I think I got nominated like a dozen and a half times, and I don't know that I ever won. It's never been about that.
You don't want the pressure of being a winner, because
Right.
then, it's
Well,
so much pressure.
and then you're now you're the guy everybody wants to take down.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You want to sleep well at night. You don't
Guys
wanna-
are going into the booth. I gotta take down Douglas next
That's
month.
right,
I
yeah.
gotta be that guy.
That's right.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've got some random items and some cool like swag from some shows that I've been in. What's really cool is sometimes is fan art. Which can be all over the map, but when someone gives you something that they spent their time on, that they feel, that they put their heart and soul into, and they find you at a convention and present it to you, and I'm always so touched by that, because I always try to credit the writers and the studio that produced the animation that whether it's Dragonball or anything else. Because so much of what we do as a character depends on kind of what we're given to work with. But a lot of times when you guys show up to conventions and you're honoring that character, but you're also honoring our work as that character. I just find that very touching, because somebody took the time to do that. Whether it's I've gotten things that are like wood engravings, and I've done I've gotten like pencil drawings. I've gotten full on like paintings, and I mean it runs the gamut. But that kind of thing always feels like it means more, than some random online, review saying, he's nominated, whatever.
I've signed a Ziploc bag of fake intestines before. I don't know why there was a bag of fake intestines, but Sabin and I signed this bag, and that will be an unforgettable memory for reasons that we're still uncovering today. What's your name?
Alex.
Alex? So how many Kamehacons have you been to?
2.
This one, and then which of the other 2? Number 1, and why you just were like, you know what, I'm gonna do the opposite of what everyone's expecting. I'm not gonna go to number 2, but number 3. Now, in this time, have you thought of a question for our badasses up there? Maybe a best breakfast you've ever had. What's the best breakfast you've ever had, Kyle Herbert?
Well, the original Pancake House has an awesome chorizo omelet. I had that this morning. Thanks to Postmates.
Okay.
So good.
Jason, best breakfast you've ever had.
Well, speaking of pancakes, that restaurant in LA, the Griddle, those pancakes.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys have never been, but you think, I'm gonna go to this place, the Griddle. Apparently they have great pancakes. And you go and you order some pancakes. And then they bring out what looks like a giant pizza stone-sized plate with it's falling over the side. And you're like, oh my God, like 3 other people at your table also got the same thing. But they're delicious, but the size is amazing. And they do all these wonderful things. So I don't know, maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not though. Like now, I've been back several times and I'm like, let's just split a pancake.
Yeah. Round of pancakes on me.
Yeah.
That's just one order.
One round pancake.
Yeah, that's right. Who has a question for the, I saw your hand. Okay, let's see what you're rocking here. Training to go ultra instinct. Right on, I like it. What's your name?
Tony.
Tony, how long ago did you get this sleeve right here?
About a year and a half ago, it's a cover up for the Dragonball tattoo.
What was the dumb tattoo underneath? I won't tell anyone.
It was supposed to be a sheepdog, and I was super jazzed about getting it. I was like showing off. Like,
He thought you said Kermit the Frog, and that's what you.
No, I was super jazzed about getting it, and then like within probably the first 2 hours of me getting it and being all like, oh, look how badass this is. Somebody goes, oh, I like your Chewbacca tattoo.
That's not how the Force works. And so you got this tattoo, and this looks great, by the way. Now, when you were getting this tattoo, at what point into the pain were you like, why am I doing this?
Probably 6 hours into this guy right here.
You were like, why couldn't I have just gotten a piece of fan art and just hung it up on a wall? That's less painful.
Well, that's kind of the thing, though, is when like you do the lining and all that stuff, like you kind of have to commit. Like
Yeah. It looks great. Like so this took 6 hours? Can you mind stand up so people can see what we're so this part took 6 hours. That right there. And so the whole thing, how long did the whole thing take?
18-ish.
All one sitting. And your tattoo guy's like falling asleep, saying, no, but we're gonna do it one sitting. That's why he's closed eye here, lying here. Okay. What's your question for these guys?
Actually, I have 2 questions. You mentioned Mel Blanc earlier, and like my dad and I used to grow up watching Looney Tunes. And who's your favorite character from Looney Tunes?
I would probably say,
Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, right on.
He's such a stinker.
Yeah, that's right. And loves that beta carotene from those carrots. Right, too. It's healthy. You eat your carrots.
And I'm from Orlando, Florida. I was just curious, have you ever had a chance to go to Super Saiyan?
I heard about that.
That's that ramen
shop?
Yeah, you've been.
Oh yeah.
What? So did you guys? Neither of you have been to those.
I've heard of it. It's kind of famous. I mean, but I haven't been. Yeah.
So if they were to go, what would you recommend? Like, what item? If you're like, okay, you float into the store and they're like, oh, it's floating you, and you're like, I just want to get something for Jason and Kyle. What should they get? What would you get for them?
Well, I mean, there isn't like a particular like specialty noodle dish, but I would argue, obviously, get ramen, But there isn't like a specific dish that's like one thing that everybody in the world has to try. But it's just any of their ramen is, and it's good. It's not just because like the novelty. It's just really, really good.
Pancake ramen. That's basically what you're trying to say. Giant pancake turned into ramen. Okay, we'll see if we can get that rocking. There's some cons coming up in Florida. I feel like out of all the states, Florida has like the most cons.
Yes.
Like there's so many out there. For you guys, when you go to a convention, is there a particular city that you go to where you're like, ooh, I want to stay an extra couple of days to explore that city or any part of the world? Like what comes to mind?
Chicago for me, just having been a couple of times, I mean, there's so many directions to go. I see a couple of guys here. Last time I was there, we took the train down from the convention center where we were at. I think we hit some restaurants. We went and saw a second city.
I just picture Jason going, hey, restaurant, eat it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boston was a great city. Really great food. Great nightlife. Where else? What's good?
Anywhere down under. Australia, New Zealand.
Of course, yeah.
Delightful.
If you get booked down there with certain shows, you're going to have one con the one weekend and another in between, and you get to have all this time off in between. So it's like, yeah, go to the zoo, go to the Museum of History, try everything you've never tried before. So yeah, that was a magical time. Or in New Zealand, if you go to Wellington to take a tour of Weta Workshop, the Lord of the Rings special effects house that have done tons of movies since then. That's really neat to get a behind-the-scenes look.
When I did a convention in Abu Dhabi, and what blew me away about that is, so basically, if you want to see an auto show, you just go to any parking lot, and it's there. And when you go to the malls, they're open very late, because really, everybody that's the pastime. Like, some places have baseball, there it's shopping. So when you go to the mall at like 1 a.m, the whole family's out, and I'm sitting there thinking, you see a little kid running around, he's going into Prada, he's running out, and then you're thinking like, I mean, it's 1, I'm pretty sure there's school in a couple hours, but okay, go to the food court. Like, I don't know that's what the most.
I'm guessing it's cooler overnight, and so
yes.
They're maybe sleeping.
That was their winter when I was there, and it was like 100 plus there. And I snuck away to I was there for a convention. I snuck away to go to the water park. So first of all, next to the hotel, there's a big Porsche roller coaster that I didn't. Anything that about the roller coaster height I can deal with is, if you've been to Disneyland, Goofy's roller coaster in California Adventure. That's about my speed. Anything beyond that. So the Porsche one is like 200 miles an hour of like face ripping. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Have you done it?
I've done that. So it's called Ferrari World. So that's the fastest roller coaster in the world and the biggest loop.
How many people die on it a day? Did you do it? And how did you? Were you like, let's do
I
that?
want to get back on it after that. Okay.
It was so cool. You're like, I only need to do it once. It's like it's the Saving Private Ryan of roller coaster. I only need to see it once. Okay. Thank you for the remembrance of it. But yeah, you go there, and then at the water. Did you go to the water park? They have a roller coaster that goes through the water park that has water cannons on it, so that you can zap people below you. That was cool. That was cool. But let's see, who has a question here? Oh, I saw you. What's your name?
Neil from the Neil podcast.
Neil and Neil. So this is the other Neil?
Neil and I'm
Hi, Neil. Hello, other Neil. Now, how did the two Neils meet?
we were born on the same day, in the same hospital. No, we're kidding.
I was like, holy shit.
We're local. We grew up east from here, and we didn't meet until about 10, 15 years ago, but I went to school with people he knew, vice versa.
And then what was the idea? It was like, podcast time.
I mean, we've been friends for years, and all of our conversations always go down crazy roads. So we're like, okay, why not start a podcast? Get out
How many episodes did you?
We got 6 out right now. We're just getting started, and we're giving out some free stuff too for anybody that wants.
Oh, okay. Where can we find you? Is it
Anywhere we're
YouTube,
free on.
Spotify.
Oh, where were you on online?
Hey,
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
all the places, I like how advertisers now are also like, when a book comes out, they're like, just, you know where books are found. Just wherever books are found. It used to be like Barnes & Noble's, Borders, blah, 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 iTunes, this and that. There's so many places. It's just like, don't use internet, people. Just use it. What's your question for these guys?
So the question is, have you ever had a role that you auditioned for and you were really excited about it and it ended up not getting the part? And if so, what role?
I already know the answer to that. They've gotten every role they've auditioned for. But let's pretend that you didn't. Is there something that you've auditioned for that you didn't get that you wish you had? Great question. Neil, everybody.
Golly, anything for Marvel and DC, honestly. Wow. Any of the new, like auditioned for Animaniacs, the reboot, and the new Looney Tunes. And it's like, I try to stay grounded though and understand that I'm in a business where chances are you're not going to get hired. Not because you're bad, but because you either are or not what they have in mind. And they'll hear it and they'll go from there. So I just keep trying. I live my life, I do the best I can with the audition and move on with my day.
And that's another piece of advice for people trying to get into the biz, I feel, is that oftentimes, especially when you get to the level of you guys, it's that it's not about resume, it's not about talent, it's about 10,000 other things that you have no idea about. It could be that the person casting it, they were married to someone that Kyle reminds them of, and they had a falling out, and they don't, I've literally seen this. They're like, I don't like, that actor reminds me of something from my past that I didn't like, they're out. I've seen it to where I hear that person smoke cigarettes, they're out. I've heard it for DC Super Friends, not Super Friends, Supergirl. It's the one where the Supergirls in high school. You know what I'm talking about? They're in high school and you know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen that in cartoon. I was supposed to be the Flash in that. And then what happened is, I asked the director, I go, hey, remember when you told me I was going to be the Flash, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yes, but we finished early with another actor. He was already there, and we just got it done. And I get it, because I'm in that position too, when I'm trying to cast something. And Kyle, you've been there where we've worked on stuff, and it's like, there's been times where it's like, oh, I thought I was going to do it. And I go, yes, but we were on a deadline. We were trying to get this done, so we just got Kyle Herbert 2.0 to do it. It's not personal at all. It's not personal. It's literally like just, we got to get this deadline done. You know, it's stuff like that. So, but anyway, Jason, what about you?
Yeah, it's not much different from that. I mean, I think there was a time in my career, certainly early on, when I kind of got up in my head about everything that I was auditioning for. You know, there's a certain point, you know, you think, I'm right for this, or this is the last chance I'll ever have. Or my future depends on me getting this job that I'm auditioning for right now. And this is just kind of, you know, I think somebody called it actor mind taffy, because you're just kind of like, you're pulling all these different little strings and you're kind of going down these paths. And really, you know, in order to stay mentally healthy, you just have to enjoy auditioning and then forget about it, you know. And if they call you back, every once in a blue moon, there'll be something that's really well written and I just really like it and I hope they pick me. And sometimes they do. But most of the time, I mean, that's part of, if anybody here is aspiring to do half of what we're doing, I mean, you got to know that it's a game of rejection. It's not unlike baseball. You know, the pro baseball players, the very best, only get a hit, you know, maybe 3 times out of 10 at bats. And this is the same for us. I mean, maybe we get cast. If we get cast once out of 10 audition, man, we're doing pretty good. So,
and I think that's something that also ties into a lot of people maybe thinking that it's easier to attain a certain status than it is, for 2 reasons. One, it's so nebulous. It's like if you want to be a doctor, you go through school, then you go to medical school, then you go to residency, then you become a doctor. It's a very linear process. With this, it's like you were saying, well, I was doing Radio Disney, and then all of a sudden they had open auditions, and I walked through a door, and there I was. Like, it's easy to see that and go like, well, I could do that. But then at the same time, there's a bit of magic to it, and we're kind of like little magicians. And you don't see where the rabbit, you know, where we've chopped the rabbit in half and the guts are spilling out, and we keep that away from you, and so you don't slip on the blood and the guts and the brain matter, and we deal with all that. The auditioning, the daily auditioning, you know, the stalking certain casting directors outside their house and threatening them if they don't put you in something, or figuring out what people's food allergies are and making them ill and say, if you want the cure, I've got it right here, but I need that role. You know, things like that you do just daily.
Yeah.
But another question. Let's see. Ooh, I like this. I like this. Okay. I have a question. How many times a month, maybe a week, do you get asked about the gloriousness that is your follicle state of being?
Like multiple times a day, literally.
She can answer that better than me.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to approach it, because I'm like, you get asked all the time, I bet. You know, it's, and so you like it. Okay, well, how long did it take to get to this point in the video game of hair that you play?
I started this journey in 2009. Long story short, it takes about 1.5 hours, 2 hours to braid, leave it in for 3 days, and then take it out.
And you just rinse and repeat that? Why?
Like the way it looks.
So, wow. So you're like, all right, I took the day off work, dealing with the hair today.
This is usually an off day thing.
Wow. And so then when it's an on day, do you have a picture of like what it looks like when it's an on day? Let me see. You need to get a new screen on it. Okay, what's going on? Did you go to Best Buy to get that installed? Well, because if you break it, they'll just replace it. Just FYI. Did you know that? Okay. They'll replace. They'll just get in there and replace. Just FYI. Okay, that's braided. Okay, that looks good. Now, I'm trying. I'm gonna run it in. I need to have good hair today. So this was meant to be. Okay, what's your question?
My question is for all of y'all. What is y'all's favorite line ever recorded in Dragon Ball?
Of their characters or just in general?
Of y'all's characters.
Ah, there we go. We narrowed it down a little bit. Favorite line. Now here's while they're thinking, I do have to preface it with this. Much different than theater or film or radio, we get the script. This is how quickly we get the script. Hey Kyle, thanks for coming in, man. Good to see you. Go ahead and scroll down to line 46. We're gonna preview, and here we go. That's the first time he's seen the script, right before we're about to record it. So it's hard to remember these, at least for me. You guys, your brains are bigger than mine. That's why I have longer hair, to cover up that fact that my brain is smaller than yours. But we don't, you know what I'm talking about, thank you, found it. So we don't get the script until literally right before we're about to record it, which is so different than theater and film. In theater, we get it 6-7 weeks in advance. Film, and it's a little bit, but rewrites, blah, 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 blah. But if there is a line that you love so much, what would be that line? If there is.
Oh, anime.
Oldie but a goodie.
Yes, the good old classic anime react. No, seriously, I think it's probably just the iconic next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's fun to say, you can apply it to any situation. It makes some situations really funny.
Yeah.
How dare you speak of a destroyer's...
Yes. Both great lines out of context. Very nice. My favorite line in DBZ is a simple one. It's just bang. That one. It's very simple, it's very small, it's very slight, but I do it in purple spandex. Let's see, who has a pregunta? Hello, let's see. Tournament of Power Ultimate. Okay, Goku versus Zenda. Very cool. Hi. Hello. Did you get your steps in today? Do you try to go for the 10,000 a day, or are you like, I'll do, I work and I got things to do. I'll do it on the weekend.
Yeah, I walk a lot at work, so it works out.
What's the most steps you've done in a day?
Probably 18, 20,000.
18 or 20,000 steps in a day. I didn't know I was standing in front of Hercules. It's nice to meet you. What's your question for these guys?
So, going off the last question, your favorite line, when you guys go in to do your recording, is it really like time stringent, or do you guys have time to do you guys get like blooper reels? You go in and be like, next time on Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta finally gets a win. Just kidding.
Do they get to improv and have fun?
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to what Todd was saying about the scripts and the fact that we don't get them ahead of time. There's no dry runs or rehearsal or any of that. So yeah, they kind of factor in when they schedule actors First of all, how many lines or loops do they have to record? How many reactions of all the or the all that stuff is factored in? It's like, if we can knock out, 40, 50, 60, 75, 100 loops an hour, then we need him for a 2-hour session. We can get that done, and that'll factor in enough time to screw up a line multiple times, which it happens, it doesn't matter. Sometimes we get the one-take Jake, and it's great, and then other times, they save it, and you have audio blackmail. You have plenty of bloopers, because it's like, we just start, when I start ruining a line and I just can't get through it, I just start, I start speaking in tongues.
A lot of the improv that happens, if it happens, which is, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's not built in, but a lot of the improv happens when a line is just not working as written. Maybe it doesn't time out right with the lip flaps, or it just sounds odd, and maybe you realize within the context that this sounds weird, the audience is. So I always say that there's multiple stages in the translation, right? Because usually there is a translation that comes from the Japanese studio that's just a very rough translation, and then that has to be, you have to localize that and create a script that is understandable. So someone does that translation, and then we end up with some version of that in the studio. And then that final stage happens mostly between the actor and the ADR director, and sometimes the engineer throws his 2 cents in. Where you're working to massage a line, and it really isn't finalized until that stage when you're actually recording. So that's kind of a unique way that opportunity that we as voice actors have to kind of contribute to that process. And sometimes we get some cool stuff out of that, and you'll just think of something that absolutely kicks. And it wasn't in the script, maybe something like it was there, but it just wasn't working. And so, that's how that kind of happens. So.
Sometimes I go back and forth in terms of liking improv or not liking improv on a gig, is because if you come up with something awesome behind the mic, who gets that credit? Not you, the writer. And then the writer's like, yeah, I totally came up with that. Absolutely, I remember where I was when I came up with it. And so I think about that in the back of my head. I'm like, oh man, but if I come up with something good, it's mine. But still, for me, in terms of improv behind the mic, it's difficult because also I'm just trying to focus on not messing up. And so I try to get through at a certain pace, at a certain accuracy level for whatever I'm doing. But I remember when I was doing on-camera hosting for a company, we would take bets because the script was sometimes 13 pages long, and we would take bets, and the crew would bet that X amount that I'll mess up one time in the whole run. We did the whole run, I mess up one. So then you get that in your head of okay, I'm not trying to joke around. I just want to be as accurate as possible, and that bad habit stuck. So then when you have folks like these guys, or Savage in the booth, Schimmel in the booth, making jokes and all that kind of stuff, hilarious, all that stuff, and they're like, all right, your turn to improv something. I'm like, can I just be accurate? So anyway, that's me. But thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Kyle Herbert for hanging out with us. And absolutely, you know where to find him down over in that there signing alley, and Jason Douglas here also. He's not too far away from that also, and then I'll see you there too. Thank you so much for taking some time with us.
Thanks, Todd Haberkorn.
Thank you.
All right. Host.